Hi, today I would like to speak about frugality and why I am so frugal. I have always lived a frugal life, but now that I am transitioning into retirement, I am questioning my frugality. When I came to Canada, I came here as an international student and I was working under the table. I was working illegally and I was earning about $7 an hour cash. With that money, I had to pay for my tuition and of course I had to pay for my rent. So I just tried to figure out how could I spend the least amount of money in order to survive. And guess what? After X amount of years, those habits got ingrained in me and I continue being frugal for the rest of my life. Then I was not able to find a regular job. I live in the province of Quebec where French is the first language and my French was horrible, so nobody would give me a job. So guess what? I had to become an entrepreneur and I opened my own business. My business was a dance school, but because I didn't have a steady salary and one semester I would be doing good and the other one was terrible, I continued my habit of frugality. I was always trying to save because I didn't know if the next semester I would have enough money to pay the rent or to pay whatever expense my dance school required in order for me to continue operating. Then, in my quest to search for solutions, I discovered something that is called the FIRE movement, Financial Independence Retire Early. And then I said, wow, it would be nice if I was able to save enough money to retire early so I wouldn't have to worry anymore about this financial hardship. So the habit of being frugal and saving all the time continue along. So first of all, because I was a student. Secondly, because I didn't have a stable job. And thirdly, because now I had this new goal of saving enough for me to retire early one day in the future. Finally, this year I achieved my FIRE number, the amount of money that I need in order for me not to worry about money anymore. And now that I reached this point, I noticed that my frugality habits are no longer serving me. I don't have to scrimp anymore or try to find the cheapest toothpaste or the cheapest shampoo or the cheapest everything. Now I can, go to a restaurant and buy me a regular meal, take my friend out and buy her a regular meal without being so worry about the price. But this is a habit of savings and being frugal that developed over 20 years and it's just very difficult to take it out of my mind. So let me share with you my spending habit. So at the beginning, when I was working full time, I would just see how much money I came in during this month or semester and I would put a set amount in my savings account, my broker's account every month regardless. Okay, so whatever money was left, that became my spending money. So I got into the habit of paying myself first. But now that I'm retired, I am now into a different habit. I also pay myself first in an inverse way. So I go into my broker's account and I take a regular amount of money every month, and that's my salary for being, I guess, the guardian of this account. So either way, I am still having to follow some kind of a budget. This is how much money I have to spend, and of course I work as my side hustle is photography, so sometimes I earn money doing this photography gig and the other one, and I don't have to take money out from my broker account. But it also happens in some other months that I didn't earn any money in photography. As you know, photography is a seasonal job, and then I had to probably take a little bit more than I anticipated. Either way, I have like a set amount of money that I take out every month, and sometimes I take a little bit more, sometimes I take a little bit less. And one lucky thing that is happening is that as my money is growing, then every year I get to take a little bit more than than inflation, the inflation rate. So if inflation is 2%, I'm giving myself a salary increase of about 4%. So yes, I am becoming more generous with myself year after year. This brings me to the topic of investment. So if you go to a regular financial advisor, they will tell you most of the time that as you age and as you approach retirement, you should try to shift some of the money that you have in stocks into bonds, because that is quote unquote more secure. And the truth is that it's not more secure. It is less volatile, there's less ups and downs, but on the long run it's not more secure. In fact, if you transition from a stock into bond, you are shooting yourself in the foot, because on the long run bonds produce a way lower return than stocks. So what I'm doing is I have everything in stocks, okay? And what I'm finding out is that my revenues, or the amount of money that I have, is growing way faster than the amount of money that I'm spending. So I can look forward to a future where I can increase my spending year after year after year. Also, I have to mention that I feel fortunate to be a man. As a man, I feel like fashion and beauty is not as important. As you can see, I wear clothes without any kind of branding, and so to wear this t-shirt or the other one is not that important. And if a t-shirt costs $200 and the other one costs $5, I'd rather pay $5 than $200. But I have some female friends that they need cream for this and cream for that and eyeliner, and of course the shoes have to match with the top, with the decoration, with the purse and whatever. And I just see this around my environment of female friends, and I feel blessed to be a man. Okay, I guess there are other aspects in life in which women are luckier, but as far as keeping a low budget and spending less, I just feel lucky to be a man. One thing that I enjoy spending time with friends. So I host my friends here in my apartment as often as I can, but oftentimes we just meet downstairs in the park. I live like 2 minutes away from a very nice park, and there are events at this park almost every weekend, and I can just tell my friends, hey, let's meet at the park, and I bring a bottle of wine and they bring some cocktails, and that's it. So we have a nice place to meet. Sometimes we do kind of potluck style, so everyone brings a little bit of something, and we can spend 3-4 hours just there hanging out with each other, and this is nice. Or sometimes we take trips, this and that. So this is the thing that gives me the biggest amount of value in my life. Just having, first of all, a flexible time work schedule in which I decide when I wake up, when I go to bed, and what is it that I do during the day, and then having a rich social life, which I give myself this gift, and that doesn't cost much money. As for other expenses, I enjoy the simple things in life. I enjoy reading, I enjoy maybe watching a movie, I enjoy long walks. In fact, I don't go to the gym. My exercise every day is just walking with a friend for 1 hour, so that keeps me in shape, that I burn calories doing that, and that gives me the company of a friend with whom I walk. So this is quite simple to keep this expense low. Another advantage that I have is that my rent is quite low. I have been living in this apartment for the past 10 years, and here in Quebec the rent is regulated. Landlords can only increase the rent a small percentage every year. Even if the market goes up very high, the landlord by law is only allowed to increase, let's say, 2-3% max. So my rent, yes, it has been increasing every year, but by a small percentage as opposed to the regular real estate prices around my area. So that's one big advantage. The other big advantage is that I don't own a car. I used to own a car, but I gave it up. I had too many parking tickets. And what do? I walk, as I mentioned before. I also have a bicycle, and usually if going to a place takes me less than 30 minutes in bicycle, I use my bicycle. If it takes me less than 30 minutes walking, I go walking. But otherwise, I live a few minutes from the metro station, and the metro station here in Montreal is quite nice and efficient. And if I had to go to a place where there is no public transportation, well, then we have a car sharing system here where I can just borrow a car for a couple of hours, and I think I pay about $10 an hour. So I find that quite nice. I don't have to worry about car insurance, changing tires, I don't know, paying for parking space, none of that. I just borrow a car for a couple of hours, I pay my $10 an hour, and that's it. So those are two places where I can save a lot of money. I save a lot of money on rent, and I decided to be a renter rather than a owner, just because the advantages from my point of view are huge. So I don't pay a lot of money in rent, and I don't pay a lot of money in transportation, which are some of the biggest expenses for most people in North America. Something else that I feel lucky about is that my groceries, I go to a small family grocery store that is not too far away from my house. It's actually about 10 minutes walking distance, and the prices are much lower than any of these big brand grocery stores here in Canada. So I save a lot in groceries, and it's not because I'm trying to compare prices of this or another thing. It's just because I decided to support small business in my neighborhood, and well, they have been supporting me. So it's a quo pro quo kind of situation. Talking about food, what you eat is also very important. So I have made it a point never to buy processed food. I cook most of my meals by myself. They are usually raw ingredients, fruit, vegetables, and grains, and I mix it up in many different ways in order to get a non-processed, delicious, and nutritious meal. And I am not a vegan, but I limit as much as possible the meat consumption. In fact, I hardly ever eat meat. I eat meat only when I'm traveling, or maybe when I'm visiting friends and that's what they're serving. Otherwise, my eating is fruit, veggies, and grains. Also, I have nothing of value in my apartment. Most of my furniture is second hand. So let's say I have a couch right here. This couch, I don't know, probably pay like at most $100 second hand from a second hand store around here, and everything else in my apartment is second hand. If my apartment burns tomorrow, I assure you I didn't lose more than $1,000, let's say, in property. So the only thing that I care about in my apartment is my laptop computer, and I have two screens, and they didn't cost me a lot of money, but I do care a lot about them. Everything else I just don't care that much about. So because I don't care that much about my properties in my apartment, then I don't pay for home insurance. And then I haven't been paying for home insurance forever. I've been here in Canada 25 years. I have never paid for home insurance. So if all of a sudden this building burns and I lose my $1,000 worth of possession, I feel that I still came out ahead, because the money that I saved from home insurance, I didn't spend it in drinks or things. I continue putting it in my bank account to insure me against some kind of calamity that may happen in the future. But if nothing like that happens, that money belongs to me. It doesn't belong to an insurance company. As far as eating out, I do like eating out. I go to restaurants at least once a week, probably twice or three times a week. But yeah, that's one of my expenses. I usually go with friends. We usually split the bill, and I don't go to fancy restaurants. I go to small neighborhood restaurants. So let's say a meal costs me $20, okay, because that's the average price of a meal here. If I do it 3 times per week, which is max, it never happens. Usually it's once or twice a week, but let's say 3 times a week. That's $60 a week. $60 times 4, which is a whole month. That's $120, $240 per month, which is not a lot. And yeah, it's a nice time with friends eating out, and it just doesn't cost me that much money. I don't have any pets. I do love animals, but my neighbors, both of them, all of them have some kind of animal, either cats or dogs or a combination of them. So whenever I visit my neighbors, I get to play with their dogs, and sometimes I babysit their dogs. So I get the advantage of playing with an animal, spending some time with an animal without the cost or responsibility of having this animal in my house. So I get the best of the both worlds, the best of playing with an animal and the best of not having to take care of an animal and having the expenses of what an animal brings to home. As I mentioned, I live in Montreal, and Montreal, out of all the metropolitan cities in Canada, I think is the less expensive, at least when compared to Toronto or to Vancouver. And I call that the French tax, because Montreal is in the province of Quebec, which is a francophone province. So after, let's say, an immigrant, they went through the hard pain of learning English, and now when they consider coming to Montreal, even though the cost of living here is expensive, the burden of having to learn an additional language sometimes is too much. So Montreal has less immigrants than the other big metropolitan city, and that creates less demand for the housing here, and because there is less demand, then the housing is less expensive, so on and so forth. So that creates a ripple effect. So I think, although I don't like the French policies in this province, I think it's a good thing when it comes to my expenses. Less people come here, there's less demand for goods and services, and goods and services stay less expensive. Also, I see no need of having any luxury items. I don't like branded electronics, I don't like branded clothes, I don't like branded cologne. I know a lot about marketing, and I know that marketers spend a lot of time and money trying to make us believe that this brand is better than the other one, when we know that that's not true. Many of these items, let's say 2 pairs of jeans, one has the brand of whatever famous brand and the other one doesn't, but most of the time it's the same jean, and the same with many electronics, and the same with many products that we find in the supermarket. So because I am aware of this, I try not to be swayed by branding, and also I don't care about appearing to have a luxurious life in front of my friends. In fact, among my friends, I think I am the one who is doing better off economically, and I don't have to show that with branded clothes or branded anything. You know, I just, whenever we go to a restaurant, I pick up the bill, and that's my way of showing off that I have a little bit more wealth. It's not what I dress, it's just how I behave when I'm around friends. So at this time, you may be asking yourself, so how do you spend your money, Alain? Well, I'll tell you, I like to spend my money traveling. I travel every year to my home country, Colombia, and I go and visit my family. I try to escape the winter a little bit. I don't spend too much when I travel to Colombia because I'm visiting my family, and I stay at the houses of my family. But also during the year, maybe during the fall time, I go and I take another trip, and most of the time it's Europe. This year I'm going to Lisbon, and maybe next year I will go to France or Netherlands or whatever. But that's one of the luxuries that I give myself, the luxury of traveling, of knowing the world. Another thing that I usually spend a little bit of money on is on photography equipment. As I told you a minute ago, I have a side hustle as a photographer, and I feel like I am always upgrading my equipment. Mind you, I don't buy the latest model that came out this year. I'm usually about 2 or 3 years behind, but every year I'm updating a new camera, a new lens, a new something that comes to the market. So what are the rewards of my frugality? Well, the rewards is that after more or less of 20 years in the workplace here in Canada, I was able to gain my financial independence. And you know, this is a big hurdle because I came to Canada not knowing how the system works, not knowing the language quite well, not having friends, not having connections, and I had to start from zero, from working as a janitor to, I don't know, creating my dance school, creating my photography business. I had a real estate business at one time or another. So I started from zero and I built enough wealth by saving and earning that now I get to not work if I don't want to. So my work is mostly because I want to keep occupy and meet new people and have some kind of activity, but I have complete economic freedom, and well, I depend on the stock market and the dividends that I get every month. But other than that, I feel quite free, and I urge you to consider also having a frugal life and saving enough for retirement or for whatever objective you have, and I'm sure you're gonna be happy as well. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace.